All right, let's start playing around with the Python a little bit. The first thing I want to show you is that I have created my little test project in a subdirectory called PyCharm projects / test. This is the actual program right here that you're looking at up here. All right. What I want to do, the first thing, is to actually find a way to get output to create my own file, perhaps in this directory. We'll see exactly where it goes in a second. Create my own file that has some text in it. The way that we do that is we need to realize, of course, that we're dealing with file types. So there's going to be some notation that we'll be putting into Python that will help us with that. All right. But a file, as I said, is usually categorized as either text or binary. Okay, a text file is often structured as a sequence of lines, and a line is a sequence of characters. And each line is terminated by what's known as an end-of-line character, sometimes referred to as a new line character, all right? Or a carriage return line feed, like what I showed you earlier. So, the binary file is going to be basically any file that is not a text file. So that pretty much narrows it down for us. Image files are binary files. Word processing files are binary files. Okay? So, when I want to open up a file in Python, what I do is I just simply say the file object. And what exactly is a file object? Well, we tinkered around a little bit with arrays, and I said that arrays are objects, and that the act of creating an array makes it so that not only do we have the actual data that's inside the array, but we have a whole bunch of cool little methods and procedures that come with that array, because it is no longer just primitive data stored in memory. It is a block of stuff stored in memory that has lots of cool extra features on it. Okay, so when we open up a file, the general syntax is file object, whatever we want to call our file object. Okay, file object is going to be equal to open. We need to give it a file name, and we need to give it the mode of operation. Okay, where the file object is the variable that is going to be handling the actual file. Okay, or in other words, it is, when I do this, it creates, as I said, an object. It creates a neat little package. That package then will be stored in the variable file object, and then I can do other cool stuff, which you're going to see in a second. All right. So the file name is obvious, but what exactly is the mode? Well, the mode is a series, or is a variable of letters. In other words, the mode can be an R, the mode can be W, the mode can be A, the mode can be R plus. All right. R is when the file will only be read. W is for only writing to an existing file. Okay. For only writing. If we write to a file that already exists on the hard drive, it will be completely overwritten. In other words, it'll be erased and be replaced by the new file. So if we said file object equals open, and my file name was froggies.txt, and my mode was set to W, if I had a file in here called froggies.txt, the act of executing that line of code would completely erase the file. I wouldn't even have to write anything to it, because the first object, or the first process, or the first effort that the computer does is to get everything ready for doing a file write operation, and that is to make sure, one of the steps of getting ready is to make sure that there's nothing in the file. So it starts new. Well, that's great, right? What if you don't want to write only to a file? We can read from a file. That's what R does. But let's say that I want, if I want to write to a file, I want to add to the file. I don't want to overwrite the thing. Well, that's what this other character is all about, and it's the letter A. A means that it's going to open up the file for appending. That's huge. All right. That means that basically, if I have a file in here in this folder, and it already has stuff in there, when I open the file up for appending, anything that I send out to the file will go on to the end of it. It won't go in the middle or the beginning or anything along those lines. It will go on to the end. Okay, so there you have it. Of course, I have errors here because what I've written here is basically pseudocode. So let's try it out for Python. Let's just do a real thing. All right, I'm going to go open f equals, in fact, I will go f underscore out, file out, is equal to open parenthesis, my work file, .txt, comma, remember, yeah, and I'll go W for write, okay? And my tendency, forgive me if I end up typing a semicolon here. I've been programming in other languages that use semicolons all over the place. I managed to just catch myself. All right. So now that I've done that, let's go ahead and actually I probably should have done that first of all in idle. So let me copy this just so that you can see what just happened. So let me go over here and launch idle wherever I put it. There it is. There it is. I brought up the shell, so I'm going to come over here and I'll do Control V so that I can paste in what I just did. Hit enter and nothing happened, right? If I go print F, it comes back and it says syntax error because of course I forgot to put in my parentheses. Print. This is just not being nice to me, is it? print F. Hit enter. And it just will not allow me to do it in here. I didn't realize that it would do that. File F, oh, because it's F out. Sorry, guys. F out. Print. File out. It says it is an IO text IO wrapper, name workfile.txt, mode write, encoding US ASCII. So this is telling me exactly what it's doing. It is doing input output, and in this case it's going to be output only, and it's going to basically wrap itself around any text that I create and put it into this workfile.txt. So this is the piece of information that lets us know for sure we just opened up a file for writing. And if we want to close that file so that we know that so the computer knows that we're done with it, what we do is we just go F underscore out dot close, just like so. And then of course it gave me this message, and let's see if it'll allow me to do, yeah, it won't do it that way. So boy, it is amazing the difference from one programming language to the next. So let's look at it now, and it's, oh, look at that. It remembered it, even though I closed it. How interesting is that? Okay, well, the variable contents is still intact, but the file, it is closed. We did close it. By virtue of doing fout.closed, that file is definitely closed. Okay, so let's go back here. And let's say that we're going to open up a file called workfile.txt for write. And if I come over here and look, you can see there is no such file at this point. All right. So what should we do now? Well, all we have to do is write a little message to it. Okay. And the way that we do that, excuse me, is I'll just copy a block of code here, Control C. Control V. This is from experiments, all right? You'll notice that I did file or F underscore out dot write. This here is a neat little function, often referred to as a method because it's part of our file object, all right, that will perform a write operation, where before you had to actually create a whole block of code to do this particular job. Somebody has reduced it down to a neat little package and stuck it inside the file writer object. Okay, so we opened up a file for write. We stuck the object that we created so that we can do a write and put it into file underscore out. And now, because we did that, file underscore out has a whole bunch of extra cool little things that can be discovered either by looking them up or experimenting around. And the way that we use those cool little things is by putting a decimal point or a period. That's a signal to Python that, hey, look inside this object here and see if there is a function called write. or a method called write, and if there is, use it. So I'm going to do that. I'll hit enter here, and then I'm going to go F underscore out dot close, and there it is. Okay, don't need a semicolon, so just 3 basic lines of code to do this. I will save this thing and I will run it. And before I run it, we'll go over here and we'll look at this again. No text file. Come over here, we run test, and now when I come back here, you see that I have a file called workfile.txt, and let's open that up and you'll see hello world in the new file. Exactly what we expect to see. All right, so that's seriously cool. Let me kill this application so that it won't hold things open on me. I'm sure you didn't understand what I just said, but not to worry, not to worry. We know that we have a file out there called work file and that it has certain stuff in it, right? So let's go ahead, and if you want to, I suppose we could do a dump on it. Grab a hold of this like so, and let's see if my hot dog, it is there. All right, so what do we call that? Work file, right? So let me cursor back, wrkfile.txt, hit enter, and there it is, hello world in the new file, and there's the actual data that was written out to the file. All right. Now you notice that I did followed a couple of conventions. One of those is whenever I open a file, I always close the file. And the other convention I will share with you near the middle or the latter part of the next video. All right. So we did an open, we wrote, and we closed the file. Now we get to read files.